Let's talk about sustainability of business models, because this makes the problem really much simpler, maybe harsher, but simpler. If one is trying to deliver courses, be they accredited or non-accredited, one has to have a source of income to cover the costs of producing the courses. And the income can come essentially from the students, and in that case directly from the students or indirectly from the government on behalf of the students. All the income can come from some other advantage the university gains by putting on that course, such as increased focus on research. Occasionally it can come from grants, occasionally it can come from special government programs, but almost by definition these are not sustainable. So when it comes to sustainable business models, the depressing conclusion to some is one basically has to have a permanent way of assuring income for the university's operations from the courses that the university is putting on. I should make one point about fees. It's traditional when one charges fees, when the course is credit-bearing, to basically just charge a fee. I think the example of open education and MOOCs in particular has taught us that you can charge different kinds of fees for different parts of the process. So you might well have the content completely free and open, but you would charge for the assessment. You might charge an extra fee for career advice. You might charge an extra fee for certain skills. And it's not clear to me why this isn't done in accredited education as well. We do see some examples in the US of different models to fees where, you know, maybe the university gets more money if the student is very successful. There's no reason why that can't be done. There's no reason why government has to get involved, but we don't see much of that. But the MOOCs are in accredited courses, but the MOOCs are piloting some very innovative approaches. So having said that, we then come on to the main models. It's fair to say that if you look at distance education, accredited distance education, the easiest model in many countries is basically to put on a distance course and sell it to international students, because in many EU countries they pay high fees, and so there's a very simple model if you can produce an attractive course. The complexities come when basically you can't charge high fees or you can't charge any fees. And then you have to look at a different approach. And this is something the MOOCs are piloting. The MOOCs typically are free, but the university still has to find some way of making the money. Now, it can try and charge low fees for accreditation, but on the whole, it can't really make a business out of that because the fees are very low. So that brings us to a model which you could call loss leader. So in other words, a university will put on a number of MOOCs and then they will hope, and sometimes it is just a hope, that this will lead to more students coming to them who will pay fees. So that's what we call the loss leader model. And it doesn't matter if the students that come to the university are face-to-face or distance, as long as they pay money for another course. That's very valuable. So there are other models which are variants of that. Some universities believe that they can demonstrate better impact for the research if they, for example, put on a MOOC about the research and lots of people view that MOOC, and then they can say to the government, look, this research was really impactful. It wasn't just something we did in a lab. And maybe then in some countries, if there's a research excellence exercise, they can get money for that. Then you run into a number of models which are mainly talked about by theorists and frankly by people who are not too involved in actually trying to run universities, because they talk about getting money from foundations. That's very tough, especially in Europe. They talk about the university's social mission or civic mission, but it's rare to find governments who are prepared to see explicit funding for social missions. Universities are just supposed to do that and not trouble the government about sending them the bill. And last but not least, if you're in a lucky country like France or Netherlands as was, and maybe Germany soon, I don't know, and to some extent Britain in the past, you could get money from the government, a grant for putting on a MOOC. But the problem with all grants of that sort is that the grants come and then the grants go, and the MOOCs come and then the MOOCs stop. And so we really have to talk about sustainable business models, which means something which will work every year through political changes, through different kinds of students, and over the long term. And that is really why the two main models I talked about are the most important in terms of an institution going forward with its business. And I'm sorry to use the word business, but basically, increasingly that's how students see the university as well. They provide education which the students will then use to improve their life chances and earnings.